There's no question about it. The New Orleans Saints are not in a good position, and the vibes, they're pretty low. That being said, I miss those days when Drew Brees was our quarterback. I miss the days when we were winning football games, dominating the NFC South, and, going on playoff runs in January. So if you're with me and you miss the GOAT, hit the thumbs up icon and like this video. The New Orleans Saints offense must improve, and I think schematically they will because of the hire of Kellen Moore. But they need to improve the overall talent level, not just from a depth standpoint, but from the just raw talent and high-end talent as well. So let's talk about who is available. Welcome to Saints Now by Chat Sports. My name is Trizzy Trace Gerard. Thank you for tuning in. This dropped yesterday. This news around Davante Adams, it is crazy. It's pretty interesting, and I do think that the Saints should at least kick the tires on it. I'm not going to say this is a good idea. I don't think that it ultimately will end up with Davante Adams signing with the New Orleans Saints, but they do have a big need at wide receiver, and there's no question about it. There's obvious ties between Davante Adams and the black and gold through Derek Carr and Keith Williams, fun fact. But the wide receiver group, I'll tell you this, it's okay, but you lose Marquez Valdes-Scantling to free agency, and maybe you bring him back, but right now he's not on the roster. He's not under contract. Same with Dante Pettis. But, Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and Bub Means, when they were healthy, I really liked those three players, but you need more. And to be honest, one thing that you're lacking is veteran depth and veteran leadership. And I think Davante Adams could provide a lot of that to the Saints locker room and to the Saints wide receiver core that quite frankly needs it. He also provides a dominant presence and an alpha guy that in the locker room at the wide receiver position who can win those contested catches. He can get those hard catches where Chris Olave, great route runner, but, the durability is not there. He's starting to rack up a lot of concussions. Rashid Shaheed is a speedster, but he's not a guy you want to send over the middle every single play. Bub Means maybe, but he's got to stay healthy and we can see what he can do. In case you didn't know, there is ties also. Obviously, Derek Carr and Davante Adams, but the wide receiver coach in New Orleans, Keith Williams, he was the wide receiver coach for the black and gold, but he also was one of his coaches at Fresno State, and he considers him, quote, like a son. And when the Saints, they hired Keith Williams, Davante Adams, they actually said, you're getting one of the best in the biz, one of the best guys to work with. And I just think that maybe it wasn't when he got hired. Either way, he has complimented Keith Williams and said that he is one of the best wide receiver coaches out there. And then there's obviously the Derek Carr and Davante Adams. Not only were they teammates at Fresno State, but they were also teammates with the Las Vegas Raiders. Davante Adams got traded to the Raiders because of Derek Carr, because he wanted him to be a teammate. So, it just obviously begs the question, could this happen? Two things would have to happen. One, Derek Carr would have to be willing to take a pay cut. He's already said he would not do that. So maybe that is something that he could consider. But two, Davante Adams would need to agree to a contract that honestly is not going to be very luxurious. And I think if you did sign Davante Adams, ultimately this would hurt them more than help them. He's a very good player, but he's going to come at a high price tag. And to be totally honest, the New Orleans Saints can't afford a player like Davante. And I wish they could, but they can't. And on top of that, it doesn't really seem likely that Davante Adams would want to come to the Saints. I'll tell you this, New Orleans is a phenomenal city, very unique, very great, very cool in its own regard. That being said, it's not for everybody. And, Davante Adams, he grew up in the West Coast. He probably wants to head back out there. He wants to team up with Aaron Rodgers again. I can see why. All of those things are very understandable. But at the end of the day, I think the Saints should at least do their due diligence and make a call. See what it's going to cost. See if he's interested in teaming up with Davante Adams. If you remember, at the trade deadline, the Saints were interested. And they were actively pursuing Davante Adams with the Raiders. Just ultimately fell through, and he ended up going to the Jets. We'll have to see what happens. I don't think he's going to end up being a Saint. I ultimately think he's going to actually be a 49er. Well, we'll see. Would you sign Davante Adams? Just give me a yes or a no down in the comment section. I want to hear from you, Who Dat Nation. I know that you know ball, so prove it down below. Now, coming up next, we're going to We're going to talk about a trade target at the tight end position, because there's no doubt the tight end position is an underrated need, in my opinion. Juwan Johnson, he is a free agent. Maybe you bring him back. Maybe you don't. I have an idea of a guy that the Saints should pursue. Really quick, got to tell you about an awesome product that Fanatics has. I was shopping on the internet. I've seen it, and I've talked about it before. I will continue to talk about it because it's still on sale, and they're running out of stock. So go get your gear, chatsports.com/SaintsLS. It's this sick hooded long sleeve shirt. It's Nike. It's a very nice quality shirt. You can get it in the links in the comments and description of this video. And when you're over there, if you don't like this shirt, it doesn't have your size, that's totally fine. Just keep browsing around and you'll still be able to support the show. So hit the link to get geared up and swagged out for this season. Now, reports around the Las Vegas Raiders and coming out of the scouting combine in Indianapolis were that the Raiders were trying to trade Michael Mayer. And the reports were that plenty of teams are interested. And before we keep this train rolling, I want to address one thing here. One, there's been a lot of weird reports around Michael Mayer, so there's been some that they're saying they will trade him. There's some saying that they're not trading him. It's just kind of a cluster. I'm going to let you finish that sentence there. It's kind of a nightmare. Raiders media, not nearly as good as Saints media. That's why you subscribe here. That's why you subscribe to all the other awesome guys who do Saints coverage on YouTube and the all over their social media. But I would trade for Michael Mayer. I just, for the record, I would do it. Hand up. Off the rip, I would make this trade. I think this would be an excellent decision. And I think that Michael Mayer could provide a really big aspect that the Saints offense is missing, and that's in a true tight end one. Obviously, he's taken a backseat to Brock Bowers, but at 23 years old, he's going to be 24 here at the beginning of the season. I mean, that's younger than some rookies. That's insane. And he's been limited in terms of the production over his 2-year career. 25 games played, less than 50 catches, 460 yards, only 2 touchdowns. That's not all that great. But also let's consider the facts that the Raiders have not been a great organization recently. They haven't had a quarterback. Their offense has been a nightmare. They've been one of the worst teams in the league. They beat the Saints, but that's not saying a whole lot. I think that Michael Mayer is 100% worth in a trade. He was a second-round pick coming out of Notre Dame. He was a very good tight end in college football. And to be honest, this is just a position in need, and it addresses a position in need, and I think you can get it for relatively cheap. When you look at the draft capital the Saints have, I think you have the ability to make a trade. I don't think that a trade is off the table by any means. You have 2 third-round picks, 2 fourth-round picks, none in the 5th, but I see 4 picks that are in the top 100, and I see 6 picks that are in the top 150. That is really good real estate to make some really good picks. And honestly, some picks that you can make some trades. So my trade idea here is I'm going to say the Saints receive Michael Mayer and the Raiders. They get the 128th pick, the selection that they received from the Washington Commanders, one of those picks from the Marshawn Lattimore trade. Give them the back pick in the 4th round. We keep the 110th overall selection. I personally think that this would be a really fair trade for both sides. They get Michael Mayer off their hands, and we don't have to give a massive draft capital. I think that that's totally fair. Kellen Moore's offense also big time leans on the tight end position, even when it's been at the most successful, especially when it's been at its most successful with Dallas Goedert as your tight end and with the Eagles being able to maintain that high-level offense and utilize the tight end position among all the other weapons, you can see that it's an important part of the offense. Even dating back to his time with the Cowboys, it was a very important part of their offense. So I think that the Saints need to address the tight end position, whether you do it in the draft, trade. The best option in free agency is Juwan Johnson, so you bring him back maybe. The Saints have to do something. You need to add to the tight end room. I love Foster Moreau. Dallin Holker, he deserves an opportunity, but we need to get a true tight end one in the room. Maybe Michael Mayer can be that guy, and maybe a change of scenery could be good for not just him, but both parties in the Saints and the Raiders. So let's go back to the trade idea. Would you do it? Are you accepting or declining this trade? Let me know if you are the New Orleans Saints. I think this is fair. I think that it's worth it, and I personally would do this trade, but let me know what you would do. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're going to be going live later this afternoon. I hope to see you guys there. Got a lot of great content for you coming your way. So y'all stay golden. Hit the sub button if you haven't already. 43,000 subscribers. We're going to get there before you know it.